Hey y'all, welcome back to my channel. I haven't posted anything in a minute, and I wanted to get on here and talk about a couple of things. This video is going to be specifically about my journey, just, really going from PMO to POMO. And like I've mentioned in my other videos that let's just discuss what PMO is. So PMO is physically and mentally out and I want to be physically out, mentally out. Okay. I want to be myself and I don't want to hide how I feel about the religion anymore. I just want to be free. Right. So what I've been doing is therapy. I started therapy. My cousin is a therapist. I've been using her. She's for the free for the for the low, but she it's not fair on her. I need to pay her, honestly. Don't tell her I said this, but I probably should pay her because I've talked to her for years about my issues, and she's really, really been monumental in my life. But I actually got a real therapist. She actually specializes in religious trauma, and she studied Jehovah's Witnesses and the disfellowshipping and all that stuff. So I think it's like a blessing for me to be able to link with her. I work in the medical field, and she was actually one of my patients, and that's how I actually ran across her. And it took me about a year to really get the balls to actually reach out to her to schedule an appointment. But thankfully, she was able to get me into her schedule. So, we're just touching the topic of being a witness. I think I've only had like 3 sessions with her. In addition to that, I've been reading a lot of books, and it has been helping me just look at life from a different perspective. And I want to actually do a video about the top 5 books you should read as an ex-Jehovah's Witness, because I feel like personally that life and religion and our belief systems, they're all the same. They just have different names and different titles and different traditions, but generally it's pretty much all the same, you know. But that, again, those are whole nother topics. So in my journey of expressing myself, reading new material that probably would have been frowned upon within the Kingdom Hall, and talking to the therapist about my experience as a Jehovah's Witness, another thing that would have been frowned upon, I have been developing the strength to really help my friends and family understand that I do not want to be a Jehovah's Witness. Now, I've mentioned before that I've told my family and they have been cool about it. Well, they have been cool about it because they didn't believe me. This whole time, I'm thinking that, oh man, I got that off my back, got that monkey off my back. I told my family I didn't want to be a witness anymore, and they all just felt like I was going through a phase. All of them, like they just thought, like, because they've all been and back to my family being liberal Jehovah's Witnesses, like they've all been in and out. They've all had their periods of times where they stopped going to the hall, but they always went back. And I never even factored that into my thought process when I told them I didn't want to be a witness anymore, because I think they immediately related that to themselves, and that they said, oh, well, she's just going through a phase, but she's going to come back. But more recently, I've been really clearly expressing to them that I do not want to be a Jehovah's Witness and I do not want to come back. And now I'm starting to get the stuff that people were talking about, but not so much in regards to, being shunned per se, but it is more so the passive aggressiveness, the sarcasm. When you are at the Kingdom Hall and you're learning, how to talk to someone that has left the truth or has left the organization, the words and the terminology that they use is very cold. in the Watchtower, they talk about people being led astray, or, you let the apostates trick you, you know? So my family has been starting to say those things to me, like, you've been led astray, you've allowed the apostates to trick you, you know, you're gonna die. You don't want to die, do you? That's something my mom and one of my aunts have been saying to me. My other aunt says that I'm allowing apostates to take me astray, and I'm being tricked and all this stuff. And I'm just sitting there and I'm listening to them, and I'm realizing, you know what? That is not how they normally speak. They don't say led astray. They don't use apostate in their daily terminology. All that terminology comes from the Kingdom Hall, right? So I'm sitting there and I'm getting upset because they're making me feel like I'm an idiot. And all of them had hands in raising me. And I had to literally say to my aunt the other day, I was like, for a person that you spent a lot of time with and had a huge part in raising me, do you think that I would allow myself to be tricked? And so my other aunt the other day, I said to her, it takes a lot of balls to stand up and say, I don't want to be a Jehovah's Witness anymore, to a family that is full of Jehovah's Witnesses. If I said that, that means I truly believe what I said, and that I definitely do have information that supports my viewpoint. And no one has tricked me. And when people say that I've been tricked, it just makes me feel dumb. That makes me feel like they think I'm uneducated. It makes me feel like, the best education I'm going to receive is from, the governing body. My my mom is in the hospital currently right now. She had to have surgery to get her gallbladder removed. So I had to go. I had to fly up to where my mom is, and I had to, stay with family members and, watch the meeting on the Zoom. And I just, I don't try to make people feel uncomfortable because of my viewpoint. So, like, if you're watching a Zoom meeting, it's not going to be a big deal if I take an hour and a half out of my life to watch it with you. Like, I'm not fanatical on that level. And yeah, I'm not fanatical on that level. So, you know, um, my mom is in another state and my family is in another state. And it takes about an hour and a half to get to her from my family's house. And since my mom's living situation isn't a space where I can go and stay at her house, I had to go to the other state where my family is and drive to see my mother. And during that car ride, you know, my aunt, she's playing Kingdom Melodies like over and over and over again. And I know all of us have experienced this where you're out in service and it's the same songs over and over, and it's not like something you'll hear in a black church where you can like jam and sing the songs and dance and have fun. Like, no, it's the same monotone beats. Even with like the new stuff, I'm like, man, this is folk music. Like, I just, it's not my cup of tea. Okay, the new songs are garbage. Like, I said it. Oh my goodness, I said it out loud. They're garbage. They're terrible. They're terrible. But my aunt wants to keep Jehovah in the car, so she plays the music, and we listen to the music all the way up, hour and a half, all the way up. Listen to it. But by then, I'm like, all right, I'm tired. I said to my aunt, I said, listen, I drive back, you drive up, I drive back. Well, we drive back. Can we just turn the radio off? I didn't ask to turn on any music. I personally like to drive in silence. And actually, I like to put on audibles and listen to books and learn about different things. Like, I love learning. So she was like, it's my car and I do what I want. And I want to keep Jehovah's Holy Spirit in the car. So no, you cannot turn off the music. In fact, she told me to pull over. She didn't want me to drive her car because she felt like I was driving over potholes and stuff. And she made me, get out the car and switch with her. And The old me would have gotten upset. But the new me and the journey that I'm on like this manifestation kick, and I'm more about energies and not putting negative energy out there, and really digesting situations and understanding people's perspective so that I can comprehend why she may feel that way. And when I thought about it, okay, she just got her car fixed. Okay, I'm offending her because I told her I didn't want to be a Jehovah's Witness. And in addition to that, I didn't want to listen to the Kingdom Melodies. Okay, so she's like on double offense right now. So instead of getting upset, I just like, all right, just breathe. It's okay. And let's just switch sides. She could drive her car. I didn't really care about driving either way. So she's driving and she's like, you really offend me when you say you don't want to listen to Kingdom Melodies. And I'm like, well, Auntie, like, I don't want to listen to show tunes the whole ride. Well, I should have never called the Kingdom Melody show tunes, because she just is like, I know you don't want to be a Jehovah's Witness, but you're just disrespecting Jehovah. And I'm like, no, I meant that as a joke. Like, I, I don't know if anyone can tell, but I like to crack jokes in between serious conversations, because I just like to lighten the mood, but not because I was trying to be disrespectful. But I respected her opinion, and I said, okay, I wasn't trying to be disrespectful. I was just cracking a joke. I just, didn't want to listen to it anymore. We've been listening to it for hours. Like, can we just turn off the radio? And she was like, all right. She's like, well, now you're not even speaking to me anymore. And I'm like, well, I don't know what you want me to say, in all honesty. And she was like, well, you can talk to me if you want to. I just don't understand why you're leaving Jehovah. Like, why you're turning your back on Jehovah. And what's interesting about this aunt is my aunt that's been disfellowshipped my entire life. Almost my entire life. Maybe the last 4 years she's been reinstated. And it's crazy because she got reinstated to spend more time with the family. And now I'm on this mission of leaving. And it's like, she was out. I didn't hang out with her. Now I'm trying to get out. And now she's like, she can't hang with me anymore, according to her. Not because anything happened to me. I'm like selling drugs. Like, no, she's just choosing not to hang out with me. So, you know, and the only reason why she's with me in this moment is because my mom is sick. So I said, I told my aunt, I said, I'm not speaking because I know that I feel like this is an open space for me to express myself. And she was like, well, I'm just saying that, like, this is the happiest I've ever been. And, I don't think that, you being in the world is going to make you happy. You look so depressed that you said that you didn't want to be a Jehovah's Witness anymore. And I'm like, actually, I'm depressed because my marriage is on the rocks because I said I didn't want to be a Jehovah's Witness anymore. My family is on the rocks because I said I didn't want to be a Jehovah's Witness anymore. I'm not really happy in the career that I'm in. Yeah, I am depressed. I totally left the religion that I was sure that I was going to see my dead loved ones again. I totally abandoned that because I found out it was a lie. So yeah, I'm not the most jolliest person that I was before. And I told my aunt, I said, in addition to that, I've noticed that I've been faking being happy. And I said this before in my other videos that, a lot of witnesses, they pretend to be happy. They pretend like, oh, this is like the happiest place in the world. And, Jehovah's people are always happy because we're serving God. And that's just, that's a way to manipulate you to believe, to think, first of all, that you are happy when you're not. And then number two, that there's something wrong with you when you're not happy. So when I wasn't really happy and I felt it within the core of me, I just pretended to be happy. So that's all she's seen, because she's been disfellowship for 30 years plus, and look from the outside looking in, I looked to be happy, but I really wasn't. And I told her, I said, it's really, the problem is that I have a people pleasing personality, and I am tired of pleasing people. I need to please myself. And I said, you really need to look at what I'm doing. I'm abandoning the faith of my grandparents. I'm abandoning the faith of my mother. I'm abandoning the faith of the family that I have spent the most time with. And I know as a result of doing that, that your guys are going to cut me off. But if I didn't truly believe what I believe, I would not do that. I wouldn't risk none of that. But I'm telling you that this is not the true religion. And so she was like, well, explain to me. Like, and I'm like, Auntie, you keep talking about how you feel as opposed to what is actual doctrine, what is actual facts. I try to explain to her, about Jesus not being our mediator, about the governing body being our mediator. And you know what's entertaining to me, and I have to really digest it because it kind of puts me off of people when they say this. When I mention the child abuse stuff and I say to them like, hey, these kids were getting abused and the brothers did nothing about it, instead of acknowledging the abuse and how that had a domino effect on people's lives, they said, well, why do you care? You've never been abused. And that's what she literally said to me. And I was like, but do people lack empathy within the Kingdom Hall? Like, okay, it doesn't happen to you, but could you imagine being abused in the Kingdom Hall and you have to face your abuser every day and they have to go on a platform and pray for the congregation and do talks and all that stuff, and you can't report them to the police because you will be kicked out of the congregation? Does that even make sense? Why do I even have to explain that to you? And then I just stopped talking, because like I said in my other video about, trying to explain to your family why you don't want to be a witness anymore, it like goes in one ear and out the other. Because unless you have experienced trauma within the congregation, unless you have experienced being disfellowshipped or being abused, you're never going to truly understand why people were people make the decision to leave the organization. So in addition to that, so this was the same day, okay? I have a friend that I've talked about her in another video, and if you want to learn more about that situation, you can go back to the Pioneer sister didn't want me to study with her, not study, but hang out with her Bible study. Well, to summarize the video, basically, there was a sister in my hall that was studying with a girl that was close to my age, and she was making real good progress within the congregation. She started going out on service and everything, and we became friends. We had a lot of stuff in common. And so the person that studied with her basically said to me that she didn't want me to hang out with her because she wasn't baptized, which I think is stupid, because basically you're telling people to leave all their friends in the world, but then when you come into Kingdom Hall, people have to treat you like you're not one of us. Like, it just doesn't make sense, make it add up. Like, I would never do that to anybody. So we connected, we bonded, she was gonna be my friend, and that's just what it was, right? And I had to deal with a lot of stuff with that, and I remember spending nights crying about it because I would get a lot of slack for hanging out with her because she wasn't baptized. But when I got married, she was very involved in my wedding. Before she got baptized, the night before my wedding, she actually slept over in the hotel with me, just me and her, so that I wouldn't be alone that night, because I didn't have anybody to stay at the hotel with me. So, I mean, it was that kind of relationship. So I had told her 2 months ago on my journey of telling people from PMO to POMO that I didn't want to be a witness. And it was my mistake, because I really should have waited until after her wedding, but it kind of just blurted out, and she kind of put 2 and 2 together on her own. But I don't know, maybe I should have lied. I don't know. But she figured it out on her own, and she asked me, and I said, yeah. And then I tried to explain to her. But again, people are talking to me in a sense of how they feel as opposed to talking about doctrine. And she kind of ended the conversation abruptly, and she said to me, oh, my mom is calling me. I'm going to call you right back. So call me right back goes to like 2 months later, and I get a text message from her saying, oh, when do you get off of work? And so I told her, well, I get off of work at 5. And a week passed, and she never calls me, never texts me. So I'm like, all right, well, I'm going to reach out to her. So I call her, and she doesn't answer. She sends me a text message and say, hey, I'm out. I'm at work. I'll call you when I get off of work. So she never calls me. I get a text message at the end of the night, and she says, hey, I end up going out. I'll call you tomorrow. the next day comes, she doesn't call me. So I'm like, all right, whatever. I'll leave her alone. I look at my phone. Now, her wedding is actually this weekend, this Saturday. I went to go visit my mom in the hospital Sunday. All right. So I'm like, all right, well, her her wedding is 7 days away. I told her I wouldn't come in person, but I'm expecting a Zoom invitation. Like, you know, I'm not thinking that she's not going to let me watch her get married because that's so silly and stupid, right? Because I had intentions of watching her, regardless of that she ghosted me for 2 months. Like, she was really supportive for my wedding, so I wanted to be there for her. Well, that was not how everything turned out. So when I'm in the hospital with my mom, I'm telling my aunt, I'm like, oh yeah, she's getting married. So my aunt texts her and was like, oh, congratulations, I heard you're getting married. And within that text message stream, my friend sends my aunt, all right, she doesn't really have a relationship with my aunt. She has a relationship with me, the Zoom information for her wedding. So I'm like, oh, well, she was sending out Zoom information to people, but she just chose not to send it to me. So I guess because my aunt had texted her, she was thinking about me within that conversation. So she calls me finally after 2 months after telling her that I didn't want to be a witness anymore. And basically she said to me like, oh, and I'm sitting there with my mom in the hospital, remind you, okay? My mom is sitting across from me. I had her talk to my mom for a little bit. Then she came to me. She's like, well, I know you're in the hospital with your mom, and I don't want to, I don't know if we should have this conversation now or later. I'm like, just say what you got to say. And she's like, well, I'm sorry if you feel like I've abandoned you these past couple of months. I got stuff going on with the wedding. Well, totally understandable. Totally, totally get that. I've been gotten married before. I understand. She's like, I've just been, busy, but I wasn't trying to abandon you, but I really wanted to finish our conversation. And I was like, okay, well, what do you want to say? And she was like, you just really offended me about the things that you say, and I feel like you disrespected Jehovah. And I said, well, again, you're associating the organization, with God, and God and the organization are two different entities. I said that I don't support this religion anymore. I do not believe in this organization anymore, but I don't have a problem with God. Like, I'm not an atheist. Not that even being an atheist is a bad person on the journey that I'm on personally right now. But I didn't say that to her because then that would have really went total left. But I said to her, um, I just, please don't say that the organization and Jehovah are one, because they're not one. And she was like, well, why don't you want to do it? And I'm like, well, I mean, she says the same thing as my aunt says. She's like, I've never been happier in my life or never. And I said to her too, I said, you keep talking about how the organization makes you feel, how the religion makes you feel, as opposed to actually looking at the facts. This organization has done bad things. And she was like, well, they may have done bad things, but, they're still moving forward. Good things are progressing. They're still doing good things. And I'm like, she's like, doesn't mean that they're bad. I was like, well, there's plenty of bad organizations and bad businesses and bad companies that are still prospering in life. Like, it was almost as if she felt because the organization, the Jehovah's Witness organization, is growing, that it's being supported by God. Okay, well, there's plenty of organizations that are growing around the world. The Catholic religion is one of the biggest religions in the world. Does that mean it's being supported by God? Also, like people need to really look at their reasoning. And when I said that, she really didn't have anything to say. So she just basically said at the end of the conversation that she didn't want me to watch her wedding on Zoom. And I said to her, okay, I'm not mad. I said, because honestly, if the situation was different, I probably would have done the same thing. I said, I'm just disappointed. I said, but right now I'm 30 something years old. I don't want to pretend to be somebody that I'm not. It's not fair for me to pretend to be that I'm this person and I'm not this person. So, I'm going to be my authentic self going forward. And I said, if you're not going to love me unconditionally and love me for who I am in this moment right now and who I'm becoming to be, that's fine. I said to her too, in addition to that, I've had a number of friends that I told that I didn't want to be a witness anymore that are active Jehovah's Witnesses right now. um, that have chosen not to cut me off, not to treat me any differently, has made arrangements to come hang out with me. Like I have a number of them, right? So, for you to say that I can't look at your wedding because I decided not to be a witness anymore, that's kind of extreme. And you don't love me unconditionally, and it's okay. I don't want people like that in my life. And she's like, well, you really feel like I don't love you unconditionally? I'm like, if you're cutting me off because of this, then yeah. She's like, well, I don't feel that way. And I was like, well, she was like, well, is this like goodbye forever? I'm like, I mean, I'm not dead. I'm not going nowhere. If you need me, I'm here. But, you know, what do you want me to say? I feel like I'm exhausting myself because you're not really going to listen to what I have to say, so, and that's what people are doing. Like, they talk about how they feel, but never actually listen to the facts. I I wanted to do a video about, I had a friend back in the day. This had to be a decade ago. He got baptized, and it was like quick. Like, he got baptized, studied, got baptized, and then became an apostate within like a 2 or 3 year period. And I remember him trying to explain it to me, and I just wasn't listening. And I probably said some of the similar sentiments my aunt and my friend was saying to me. This is happy. This is what I want to do. I hear what you're saying, but just don't talk to me. And I'm sure I crushed him because we had developed a really good bond, and I know he was interested in dating me at one point, but I kind of just cut him off, and she's actually just doing the same thing. But the difference between her and then my other friends is that she did not grow up as a Jehovah's Witness. And I feel like people that grow up as Jehovah's Witness, you have a completely different, more nuanced view of the religion as opposed to the people that didn't grow up as Jehovah's Witnesses, especially growing up within the Northeast. I'm telling you. And again, people look, when people comment on my trading spouses video, they're like, this is not true. And I'm like, you gotta move to Jersey, you gotta move to Philly, you gotta move to New York City, go to Connecticut, go to Baltimore, go to DC. This stuff is real. Like, I'm trying to, like, but whatever. If you don't want to believe it, you don't want to believe it. But when the friends that I did tell them that I didn't want to be a Jehovah's Witness anymore, and they grew up as witnesses, they completely understand my perspective. But again, this is what they grew up with, and it's a lot of brain power and a lot of working through your thoughts and your emotions to get you to the point of where I am at today. So as long as they allow me to still speak to them and I can call them freely, I'm going to dump nuggets in there like, oh, well, you know what? That doesn't make sense, does it? Well, that's not right. That sounds weird, doesn't it? And I'm doing that with my family too. I don't care. Like, you guys are going to have to cut me off if you don't want me to throw a nugget in there. And I see people's brain working, but they're not ready to accept it yet. They're not there. But it's okay. One day, and I wish I said this to her. I said to myself, one day this girl is going to wake up and she's going to understand what I'm talking about. She's only been baptized she's been baptized since I've been married. So she's been baptized for maybe 5 years. 5 years now. Give her another 5 years of wasted life. Give her another 10 years of wasted life, and then maybe she'll understand what I was talking about. But in the meantime, I'm going to be prospering. I'm going to be I'm going to be educating myself. I'm going to be making new friends, and you know what? I'm going to have true freedom. I'm going to be able to do the things that I want to do without having to worry about someone in the back of my head saying, "Oh, is that dress appropriate? You shouldn't say stuff like that. Jehovah's going to kill you because of this and that and the other, and I'm always going to die, and I'm always afraid of dying." Like, I can't wait to do my next video about the books I've been reading, because I feel like my spirit has been lifted, so yeah, that's what my next video is going to be about. The 5 books you should read after you become a PMO, when you're a PMO. Yeah. 5 books you should read when you're a PMO, POMO, whatever. But you should read these books because it really changed my life. So anyway, that is it for this video. I just wanted to talk about my experience and my transition to be a POMO. It's not as easy as I imagine it to be, but as long as I keep upbuilding myself and hanging around positive people that are going to upbuild me and understand my journey, I think I'm going to make it. I'll be okay. So on to the next video.